Hello, welcome back to Interwho. I'm Logan.
I'm Ben, and today we're here with.
Mr. DiRienzo. Hi, everyone. I'm Austin High School's theater teacher and the director for the high school play and high school musical.
All right, so just starting off easy here. How'd your life lead you to Austin High School?
Oh, my goodness. Okay. So I've been teaching for quite some time. Originally, though, fun fact for those that probably don't know this, I taught kindergarten, first grade, and second grade for 10 long years before switching over to high school. So I taught that for 10 years. Towards the end of my last year of teaching second grade, I was kind of curious about maybe trying something different, trying a new district. I taught in the city for some time, and I came across a posting for a teaching position at Park School for kindergarten. Excuse me, because I ate popcorn. See, this was happening. So I came across the posting and I applied, and I went through a very, for those of you that don't know, in order to get a teaching position in the state of New York or city of New York, you have to have your master's degree in teaching and also be certified to teach in certain areas, right? So I went through a really crazy long interview process, right? So I had I think 2 interviews, and then I had to do a demo lesson where I had to teach a bunch of kids. And then I had to do another interview after that, and then another one after that. And then my final interview at that time was with our outgoing, I guess I should say, superintendent, Dr. Sanchez. And then from there, I was hired. So I did all of that, and then I got hired to teach at Park School kindergarten. During the first week of orientation for teachers, which is the last week of August, Dr. Sanchez approached me and said, "Hey, so this is the deal. I need a theater teacher at the high school, and I know that you're also certified to teach theater. What age range is that?" And I said, "Oh, well, my theater certification is kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade." And he was like, "Perfect. That's what I need. Would you consider switching and instead of doing the instead of taking on the position at Park School, switching over to the high school?" And I said, "Well, I was originally hired to teach kindergarten. I was super excited about it, but let me reflect and all the things." So they gave me a little, not a lot, but a couple of days to sort of reflect on all the things. And I thought to myself, all right, you know what? I wanted to change. I got this amazing position in an amazing district like Ossining. And why not just really go big and switch age groups and content and the whole 9 yards? So that's kind of how I ended up at the high school. It was a long-winded answer. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's fine. That's what we do this
Yeah,
for.
it's
We
your
want
interview.
long answers. Yeah. All we're here is to get the story out of you. You tell us your story. So I want to dial in more on your first year here teaching. How was your first play? How was your first musical? What were they? Because I don't think I even know because I wasn't even here yet. So talk to us about the early stages of you being the theater director here.
So last year was my first year as the Ossining High School theater teacher and director. And it was really crazy. It was big shoes to fill. The theater teacher before me had been here for 14 years or something. And that teacher had built a very, very good program. So she was handing me a really great program, which was great because not everyone gets that opportunity. But there were lots of things that I kind of also had to figure out on my own, right? Because it's not like I got to sit down with her and be like, how do I do? What do I do? We didn't have that opportunity. So I had to just kind of jump in headfirst into the deep end of the pool, as I like to say. And so I did. My first play in the fall was Almost Maine. And then last year's spring musical was How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. And what's crazy about the play is I had to pick the play before I even came over here. Because when I agreed to take on this job, I kind of had to do a little bit of time at the elementary school before coming over because they didn't have a replacement for me there yet. So I did 4 weeks with them and then came over. And in that 4 weeks, my boss at the time, or still my boss now, Miss Matthews, director of cultural arts, said, "What play do you want to do?" And so I was like, I'm going to do this one. And I kind of had to just go on the fly. I mean, I did want to do that play, but I certainly didn't know any of the kids or any of the talent or anything at all. I just kind of had to go with my gut, and I did. And I'm glad I did. It ended up being amazing. The cast ended up being amazing. And so yeah, that was a little like scary because I was like, okay, here I go. And then literally like I started rehearsals the next day. I like had my first day here and then I started rehearsals the next day. So that was a play. And then the spring was a little easier because I started to know the kids, I started to know the program, I started to know how things worked. And so I was able to really pick a show that I knew would showcase like our students for that year. In terms of like daily class, it was exciting to sort of go back to my roots because my undergrad is actually in theater. I have my Bachelor of Fine Arts in musical theater from the Boston Conservatory. So in order to sort of figure out what I was going to teach students, I got to sort of go back and be like, what did I learn? And that was really fun to sort of go back and rediscover all of those different things in terms of like acting techniques and stage combat even, and just like a lot technical theater, like all the different things. And that was fun. I also knew what I wanted to bring to the program and to my classes is what it's like to be in a professional theater and like how that's run. And so I definitely bring that and excited to bring that. And I love teaching like all aspects of that, like how an actual real theater is run. I feel like that's how we do our play and our musical here. We do it like a real true like theater company and how like a professional theater company would handle it.
Yes, kind of going back in time a little bit. What made you love like theater and acting so much?
I mean, since I was like little, I think my mom took me to see my first musical at age 7. It was called, I'm crazy that I remember that because I'm 42. My first musical at age 7, it was No No Nanette. It's like an old timey musical written in the 1920s. And I was taking dance class at the time. My sister took dance class. I was kind of interested in it. So my mom enrolled me early on at age 7. And when we saw that musical, my dance teacher was in the musical. And at age 7, apparently, this is what my mom says. I turned to her and I said, I'm going to do that. And she said, what do you mean? You said, no, I'm going to do that as my job. And because my mom's an attorney, I was like, you know how you're an attorney and that's your job? That's going to be my job. She was like, okay. And she thought, as a 7-year-old, I was just kind of saying it, but it stuck. And I just like loved it since that day, kept after it. I trained in dance and then eventually went to an acting school. I'm from Oklahoma City, so there was an acting school for young people. And then that led to my performing arts junior high, which then led to my performing arts high school, which then led to for me to go to the Boston Conservatory and so on. And then I was an actual performer in New York City for 15 long years, doing Broadway, off-Broadway, national tours, all that good stuff.
So, looking at the musical that me and Ben helped out in, which was Sister Act.
Yes.
Right? That was in March.
Yes.
Great show.
It was actually.
Fantastic show, if we all say so ourselves.
If I'll be 100% honest, I didn't think I would enjoy like being really a part of it. I was trying to do spotlights because Matt and Gio did it, which is my brother and his friend. I was like, I'll see, just like get to hang out there. I enjoyed being a part of that place so much because the group of people there they're all really, really kind. And it's a very welcoming environment, and which you wouldn't necessarily expect, right? Like I was kind of expecting more of a everyone's kind of out for themselves type of environment, but everyone's like a very good community, and I can see how part of that is from you helping build it. But I want to know about the process of like picking that play and then the early stages of rehearsal before I was able to come in there. Like before we set up the play, before we made all the set pieces go up and all that. What was that like?
All right. So that's a crazy process, right? So like right now I'm thinking about next year's, right? So that's when it starts. So Sister Act, I started thinking about this time last year. Not that show specifically, but like what spring musical are we going to do, right? And so you start thinking, and then you start thinking about the students you do have currently. And then you also think about like the potential of more students or other students. And then you start to think about what is the best show that's going to showcase our talented, diverse community here at Austining. And there's lots of different shows, right? So you really like you start off. I think we started off with like 10 shows on a list or something, and then you kind of narrow it down. And I say we because it's a team of people that sort of come together to really make the decision. So me, the choreographer, the music director, and the vocal coach. So me being the director, our choreographer being Miss V, our musical director being Mr. Evans, and our vocal coach being Teacher Shizano. Now, Teacher Shizano and Mr. Evans weren't on the team last year, so really this year's show was chosen mostly by me and Miss V. But again, it was me and Miss V just sitting down in our office and like going through so many different shows. Like, how can we do it? What could we do? Can we do this? Can we do that? What's good about this? What's not good about it? What do we like about it? What we don't? I mean, it's like a crazy process. It takes months and months and months, right? And then you finally pick it. You're like, all right, we're gonna do Sister Act. So then you pick it. And then from there, you have like sort of the interest meeting of like, okay, we're going to do Sister Act. Who wants to be in it? And so you have the students sort of come out and say, I'm interested in auditioning. And then you have the crazy audition process, which is really crazy. It's 3 days of auditions. So you have a dance call, and then you have the singer call, and then you have callbacks. And there are 6 people that choose the cast, right? So all the creative team, plus I also like to bring out 2 other people that are like not a part of the arts at all, just to get really an outside opinion on things. So this year I was lucky enough to have Dr. McFarlane on the creative team process of deciding the cast, and our new principal, Miss Kiros. So they were there. And then basically it's like 6 of us just like hashing it out. What's the best, cast that from these grouping of students, what's the best cast to put up there, right? So that happens. It's kind of like when if you want to like, I like to relate arts to sports, because I feel like in a lot of ways they are relatable. So it's kind of like when the coach picks the best like starting team to go out, right? Starting positions for football. It's like, what grouping of students is the best for that? It's like the same thing. Like, what's the best students that we can put out on the stage and really reflect everything that we want to be here at Austin High School. So then that's cast. So then once it's cast, then you start rehearsals. Usually the rehearsals start off with music rehearsals, because there's a lot of music to learn. So usually it starts there, and then that sort of dives into dance rehearsals, because now you've learned the music. Now you're going to put the dance to the music, and then we start blocking rehearsals, which is really, as the director, that's not my biggest. My biggest thing is the overall vision, which is crazy. But like that's, I start doing the blocking, we start getting together, and then you start putting it all together. And then you have crazy tech rehearsals, which I think is when you started to join us. So you know what that looks like with the hours and hours and hours of lights and whatnot. What you guys don't know is what it looks like in the booth, because you're doing your thing on stage. What you don't know is what it looks like in the booth is I have a lighting designer literally every millisecond of the show being like, you like that? You want more of this? Do you want more blue here? You want more red? Do you like this? Like that? What do you want? Oh, I want it to look like this. I want like this. Okay, got it. Like this? Like that? Yeah, good. Set? Okay, go. Next. Like every millisecond. So that's a crazy process. So yeah, that's basically all of it up until when you got there.
So I was also the usher for Play On, which was the play before the musical, and I'm pretty sure you did that with me, right, Ben?
I didn't. I just watched you do it and laugh. But
Oh yeah. He was there for that. I remember that. It was you, me, and a couple other of our friends. The musical is a lot more flashy. It's a lot more extravagant. It's all about making what you see resonate with what you hear. So, what do you think is like the biggest difference between the play, which is more of the acting focus, to the musical, which is more about those big numbers that you have? And which one do you think is more difficult to get like really good at?
I think that's always like the golden question. I think they're both equally difficult, just in different ways. So the play is difficult in the fact that it is you don't have other components to sort of push along a plot, right? Like it's just actors in their rawest, truest form delivering a performance. That's hard, and that's a lot of work to get to, right? And so to memorize all the lines, and you don't have like a melody to kind of help you memorize that, right? It's just all talking and working that out. And the play in terms of directing is literally just me. So it's me, my brain for 2.5 hours, figuring out this stuff, working with my actors, collaborating as a team, and sort of like figuring it all out. So that's what's difficult about that. The musical is kind of like what you said, right? Now we have 3 elements that we have to get together. So the acting element, the singing element, and the dancing element. We have to get all of that together and clean and refined and ready to go. So again, I would say they're both equally as difficult. It's just that one has a couple more components than the other.
I will say, as a director, you're kind of like, going back to like relating to sports, you're kind of like the coach of the whole operation.
Yes, exactly. I like to think that.
So, do you think it's easier to make decisions for like the whole of the performance by yourself or with a group of people, like you're in a musical?
That's a good question. Um, let's see. Is it easier? No, again, I would say equally sort of have their they equally have their challenges and their benefits, right? So like with the play, like I don't ask anyone. I'm just kind of like, this is what we're doing. Great, right? But then what's scary about that is like, what if it wasn't the best decision? Really, there's no one to blame but me, right? Whereas the musical, it is kind of amazing that you do have like teammates that you can kind of bounce ideas off of and like really create something. Um, that's you I don't know that you get the extra sort of feedback, but the tricky thing about that is what if everybody has a differing opinion? That rarely happens. I want to say like we have such a good team of people that we're usually all on the same page, but there are some times and with certain little things there you might have like everyone has a different idea and then it's kind of like, whoa, Nelly, what do we do? That is where my job as the director then really does kind of have to come in and like as the coach and go, okay, we have these different opinions. I'm hearing this from these things. I'm deciding this, right? So again, both are sort of like difficult in their own way. And like I said, I have their benefits and sort of their, I would say challenges, but not like in a negative way, but just like their differences, right?
Okay, we will be right back, Mr. Rienzo, after this short ad.
Welcome back to Interwho. Sorry, we're here with Mr. DiRienzo. Kind of a question to start things back up. What's the best show you've directed in and the best show you've performed in?
So again, challenging questions because every show I love directing and they all have their I love things that are like complicated and like challenging. As a director, I love to take that on. So every show, whether musical or play, has that in it, which is why I love directing all of them. Um I I'm just gonna say them our most current, one, like just because we just did it and it's fresh and I loved it. But directing Sister Act was like really wonderful. It had a lot of challenges. It was definitely one of the, and I'm told this by several students. It was definitely one of the biggest shows that Austin High School has done to date. So that was great, like so great, and everyone worked really, really hard on it. I'm really, really proud of that work. So it's definitely, I can't say that it's my favorite because again, I'm going to continue to direct so many, but I can definitely say that it's definitely going to be one of my favorite. I can definitely stand by that. But again, I really loved the two shows last year too, just for like different reasons. So that's always a hard question. In terms of performing in, same thing. I love challenges as an actor. So, I prefer like roles that come easy to me. Like I love doing them for that reason, but like things that are really challenging, I also enjoy. So I would say the last time I did a show, Roosevelt just did the show, but professionally I just did not now, but one of my last professional shows, right, as a professional actor, I did "You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown," which is a musical.
My mom did a version of that at her school, actually. She's a costume director.
See, there it is. It's a very well known show in schools and professionally. And I played Charlie Brown. And the reason why I like that is because when most people meet me or see me or like whatever as an actor, most people are like, "Oh, you're Snoopy, right?" Because I'm a little over the top. I'm a little more like, I guess, fun and all that. But I love playing Charlie Brown because it's like a quieter character and a more introspective character. So I have to work a little harder at sort of like fine tuning that. So that's definitely, I would say, one of my favorite. I like the challenging roles. Those are my favorites.
So would you say in general you like a lead role more than a supporting role?
No, I like both equally. They're both fun.
Just whatever's more challenging.
Yeah, whichever was more challenging. Because when my last show that I did for 2.5 years off Broadway called My Big Gay Italian Wedding. And that was, I was dance captain because there was like this whole dance sequence in the play randomly, even though it was a play. There was a whole dance sequence. So I served as dance captain. I had a supporting role, which I loved. And I also understudied the star of the show, who was in every single scene. So as understudy, for him, he was in most of the time. He was great. His name is Anthony. He was amazing. He also wrote the play. He was there most of the time, but he would have like planned outs. So I would know well in advance when I was going on for him. Again, great, fun to be in the starring role, but it's a lot to learn. right? A lot of lines and a lot to remember. And when you're not doing that every single night, it's like, whoa, Nelly, like, okay, get it together. So awesome, challenging, wonderful, but like you're in every single scene. With my supporting role that I did every single night, that was like super fun, I didn't have that pressure of starring in the show. So it's like I have a role, I get to be seen, I get to do this great stuff, but there's not that added pressure of like that role, the starring role literally was in every single scene of the play. That's a lot of pressure. So again, it's kind of like it's awesome. Both have their things that are great, and then there are things that are challenging.
So to dial in on a more specific question for the musical that we just did, Sister Act,
Yes.
that had some very big over the top scenes, especially the last piece at the end. Which why am I forgetting the name
Spread
right
the
now?
love
There we go.
around.
Spread the
Yeah.
love. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't call it over the
Very,
top.
very big. And we did that so many times in rehearsal, just going over that, over that, and over that.
Yes.
But the whole show had some like great musical numbers. I want to know which one that you have done either professionally or when you were in school or out of the shows that you've done here. What is like the musical number that you remember the most?
I'll tell you from that show, there was lots of great numbers. And that finale number is great and wonderful, and I loved watching it every night. But I have a very special place in my heart, and I told the cast this like when we started. I told them, and it's still true. One of my favorite numbers from Sister Act is "Raise Your Voice," which is not really one of the bigger ones. But that number holds such a special place in my heart because at that moment in the show is the first time Dolores helps sort of the nuns find their voices and in turn finding her own voice. And it's such a pinnacle moment. It made me cry every single night. Nobody knows that. I won't tell anybody. But I literally would sit in the audience and cry hysterically like every night because I'm crying now. Like I'm getting teary-eyed now when I think about it because I love that. I don't know. Special place in my heart. Such a good number. Last year's musical, my favorite number was not a big number at all. And also the cast knows this too. So if they hear this, they're going to laugh hysterically. It was this duet between the star of the show and another cast member who's still here, Dylan Alter, who was in Sister Act. It's this silly song called Grand Old Ivy. And I just thought it was the funniest thing on the planet. And I don't know why. I just did. And it was a perfect blend of my direction blocking / Miss V's choreography. It was like our perfect brainchild that we like masterly crafted completely together. And it just brought me so much joy and made me laugh so hard that it was my favorite. And honestly, the audience, the cast was like, this number is so dumb, I don't like it. The audience loved the number every single night. And I was like, see, I told you, this is the one. And the cast they're gonna laugh so hard hearing me say that because they were always like, why is that your favorite number? And I just is. I don't know.
It's so funny you say that because like during the rehearsals when we did Sister Act backstage, there were certain parts, like not specifics, there were just certain parts, and like half the backstage crew was like, oh, this is so funny. Everyone's like, what do you mean? This is stupid. No one's gonna like this. Then each night it was like a different audience.
Yeah.
So you could see each audience's like reaction to it. And we're like, see, I told you.
Yeah, see, and again, you never know. Like every audience is different. Some audiences are gonna laugh at that spot that they're gonna laugh at, and sometimes they're not. And it's like crickets, and you're like, oh, I guess it wasn't so funny. And that's the great thing about live theaters is always different.
When we had the senior citizens come in to watch the play for open dress, they were probably my favorite crowd we had for any of the shows because they were just
They
were
got every single joke.
they were surprisingly like so actively interested in the play and they really paid attention to everything and they were dying. I remember I'd come up to Ben every time we closed the curtains, I would sprint across stage and I'd be like, Ben, do you see that guy over there? He is dying laughing over there.
I agree with you. That audience was a great audience. Man, they didn't miss a beat, and they found every single joke they found funny. That was a great audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of like plays and musicals and stuff, a lot of the jokes written in, a lot of the audience gets it and a lot don't. And a lot don't, at least in things that I've seen, is like a lot of the jokes are either inside jokes from the show or it's stuff that like you need some kind of background knowledge to understand. Mm-hmm. And I feel like a lot of the older audience and then on opening night, there were just a lot of jokes that like if you thought about it, it was really funny. And the audience understood that. And I found that crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Especially like something that I thought was super interesting when we were doing it is you see how the audience gets more and more sucked into the musical as it goes on. Like we would before show would start, we'd look out into the audience and I'd see a bunch of people and I'd be like, I can kind of like assume like these people over there, they're not really gonna pay attention. These people are not gonna pay attention. And first act, first number when we were doing "Take Me to Heaven," which is still my favorite song because I think it was like the most not meant to be funny, just meant to be like a serious showcase of musical talent. And I think all of them did great on that one song.
They did. Yes, they did.
I would see people like kind of get more into it, and then they wouldn't. And then when the big chase scene happened, when Akela comes sprinting in, get to the police station, then she started cracking those jokes. I see people get more and more sucked into it. Do you have like a specific memory of a show that you did or that you directed where like you see people like maybe the audience isn't really all there, and then like at the end of it, you were like, this is one of the best audiences we've had in a minute?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that Saturday audience for Sister Act was very, very good. They seemed to be like in it though from like the minute the downbeat of the orchestra went down. So I think they were like definitely on board. I guess for me, it's not most of the shows that I direct or well, I should tell you a funny story. When I was on, speaking of, it's like the opposite happened. When I was on the national tour of Cats, the act 1 ends with this 14-minute dance number. 14 minutes. It's insane. From the beginning to like the end of the whole sequence is 14 minutes, and we are dancing our tails off, literally, for that long. And there's this final button, and we had to do this huge, all of us collectively, huge leap up in the air and then land on the ground in like some sort of cat position that you were told to do. We had a couple of times on tour, we would do that, hit that thing, and crickets. And we would be so mad because I'd be like, are you kidding? Do you know how hard I just worked? And that's what you're giving me is like that, right? So again, because audiences are alive and you just never know, like, and every audience is different. It's just always surprising what happens. So that's kind of an example of an opposite of the audience. Like you're like, they're going to be into it, right? I guess not. I love like the surprises. So I've had, last year actually with the play Almost Maine, I had a couple audience members kind of like what you said. Like they start the play and they're like, oh, nice play. And like they told me flat out, they were like, yeah, my intention was like kind of like to stay for like the first couple of scenes and then like kind of leave. They were like, but like I was so interested in what happened. It was like so good. They were like, I watched the first couple of scenes and I was like, wait, no, I want to see more. I want to see more. And then I stayed till the end of the show. And they're like, I wasn't even planning on that. And so I love that when that happens, when all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, this is a thing. A huge compliment, and this is for really a lot of the high schools now, especially in Westchester, who have these programs. Like we're producing really good shows. Like they're not the high school shows of yesteryear, right? Where they're like, okay, like they're good. And I mean, not, and yes, obviously us here at Austin, we're very good, but other high schools are also really great. And so that's a thing I try to encourage a lot of the drama club kids and anyone is like, go see other shows at other high schools because there's something to be learned there because they're all really fantastic. And so, yeah, like shows at high schools are good. And a lot of times the audiences are surprised by that. And then they're like, wait a minute, like that was like a real good show. And it's like, yeah, totally. So
Yeah, we're kind of short on time here, but kind of just to finish up, I really wanted to ask this question. What's your advice to people who want to start kind of being in the like theater acting world?
well, if you're here at Austin High School, you should take the theater classes. And then you should also come out for drama club because those will start the training and start the sort of like the blueprint, the sort of like the groundwork of like what it's going to be sort of in college and stuff like that. I try to like make my classes like college prep. classes, if you will. And same thing if you're part of the drama club and you get to be a part of the show in any way, shape, or form. It's definitely a sort of like a college prep thing. So I would say if you're here at Austin, get into those. Also, like, seek outside training. There's lots of great training here in Westchester for acting, and we're so close to New York City. There's obviously lots of good training there. So seek outside training if you can. And yeah, just the time is now. If this is something that you want to do and you're interested into it, seek it. It's there for you, but you do have to sort of like go and get it. Like anything in the arts, I would say, is not something that if you just kind of sit back, it's going to fall into your lap, right? It's hard work and commitment. And if you want to do it, you got to go find it. So get out there and find it. But if you're at Austin High School, take theater with Mr. DiRienzo, or dance with Miss V, or chorus with Mr. Evans, or give me the mic with Teacher Shizano.
Well, that's all the time we got. I want to say a quick thank you to Mr. DiRienzo for coming out and being very helpful with the whole process of getting him here, since we did have to cancel a couple times, but I appreciate him coming here. Last time, I am Logan, and this is Interwho, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Ben.
Thank you, Mr. DiRienzo.
Thanks.